I've mentioned on multiple occasions that Azure, as it stands, really comes in two different versions. There's the Azure Service Management Model or Services Management Model, which is the classic or the version 1, and there's the Azure Resource Management Model, which is the current version 2 of Azure, right? And the reason we have this is because honestly, Azure kind of just took off. And so many things got added to Azure that the original architecture really wasn't sufficient for that, right? Initially, with the services model, you could create these different resources, but you're creating each resource completely independently of any other, and you're managing each resource completely independently of each other. With the Azure Resource Management Model, what we have, in addition to vast improvements under the hood to the overall architecture within Azure, from our perspective, we have this concept of a resource group. And then within the resource group, we can manage related resources. I kind of want to put a door at the bottom to make that like a really bad drawing of an apartment complex. I digress. But in any case, I now have this idea of having a resource group. And we'll talk more about the resource group, but what it really allows us to do is, again, manage multiple resources together. All right, I can also use this for security purposes. I can use it for monitoring billing purposes, so I can look at billing by resource group. And I can also use it for deployment purposes, which we'll talk about, which I think is actually absolutely huge. Okay? And it's not a complicated concept. Now, the one thing that you will notice, at least for now, and it's been this way for pretty much since the beginning of the resource groups, is that most of what you're going to do, and certainly anything you're doing that is coming online and is newer, is going to be in the resource management model. Okay? So web apps, for example, resource management model. There are still a couple of things that are only available under the older ASM. For example, we're going to talk about Azure AD. Interestingly enough, even though a lot of that functionality is very new, you still access it through the classic portal, through the ASM. But in general, always start, if you're not sure, always look at the current portal, always look at the ARM, Azure Resource Management Model, to find what you want to do. From our perspective, it's very simple. You have resource groups, you put your resources in a resource group, you can manage them, you can deploy them, you can delete them as kind of a whole unit.